Hello, everyone. I'm JVL here with my colleague at the Bulwark, A.B. Stoddard, and everything is terrible. A.B., you and I are both sick. I'm doing this show with my Barry White voice, which is always tremendously amusing to Tim and Sarah when we do shows when I'm sick. Uh, I want to start out by wishing you a happy Bleach anniversary.
Oh, you beat me to it. It's the best. For all
four
who
years ago.
celebrate, when you have a president of the United States suggesting in a pandemic that you inject bleach into your veins, you know you are among the lucky few who have ever lived on this planet.
And it's this is the rare year when the Bleach anniversary overlaps with Passover. And so what I mean some people could do would be to put bleach on the lintels of their house to let the virus know to pass over them.
Oh my.
So this is, I would say this, just one, I mean, this is all shtick. In a normal world, the fact that there is a thing called a bleach anniversary would be utterly disqualifying, and Trump would be losing by 25. Right? I mean, this is the one thing to say about this. Like, it's insane. The guy who presided over the worst failure of the federal government since, I don't know, the Civil War isn't losing by 25. I mean, the polls finally tightened. Biden is moving uh, pretty measurably. Most of the polls now have Biden tied with Trump or inching a little bit ahead. Um, but the fact that this is close continues to simply just baffle me as to what world people are living in.
Two things. One, we just can't spend too much time on my COVID derangement syndrome because, as we've discussed multiple times, Americans still might not know that he told Bob Woodward on February 7th that it was like airborne and like potentially lethal and really, really bad and dangerous, and lied to us for several more months while it spread everywhere. And he is responsible for about 40% of deaths that were unnecessary. They might not know that, but I believe that in their panic, experience a pandemic for their first time in their lives, they probably did tune into those briefings. And even if they were not watching on April 23rd for that specific one, they saw a lunatic lying to them about, I don't want tests, I don't want the numbers, everything's going to be fine.
I like where the
Everyone has
numbers
to
are
calm
right
down.
now.
I
Yeah.
like them. And they knew that this was a completely out of control and dangerous situation. And the messages changed all the time, and it was crazy, and they were not safe. And so, again, that it has just been pushed back into some strange mass collective amnesia about Trump is beyond me. And then fast forward to now, and the polls you discussed, the NBC poll had, and I don't have it right here, but had, of course, Trump is more effective and more
Yeah.
competent just several days ago.
Yeah. And this is a poll showing Biden doing pretty well. And
Right.
it is amazing to me. And it's not like everything has gone great for Trump in the last 4 years. So this brings us to the trial. Right now, we're taping on Tuesday morning. I think it is amazing that the first witness in the trial of Donald Trump, who committed vote fraud by paying off a porn star to keep her quiet about their tryst so that voters wouldn't hear about it shortly before the election. The first witness in that trial is a guy named David Pecker. It's like we're in an Evelyn Waugh novel, and I don't understand it, but here we are. And we have this weird thing happening where Donald Trump seems to be trying to be held in contempt of court.
I think it sounds like it's necessary to him at this point.
So, can you talk about it a little bit? So, Trump has been doing all sorts of stuff. Uh, there have been gag orders issued, which aren't really gag orders, but attempts to keep Trump from doing things that would intimidate witnesses or jurors. And Trump has been doing this insane stuff, in which he's, he there on March 27th, Trump was tweeting about Justice Merchan's daughter on Truth Social. And he talks about how the judge's daughter has been allowed to post pictures of her dream of putting him into jail, and how it is absolutely ridiculous that he's not allowed to exercise his political speech. And this just isn't true. Like the the account which was posting dream pictures was not the justice's daughter. This was something put forward by a conspiracy theorist who's on Trump's side. And it's crazy. A.B, it's crazy. No?
So, listening to the judge lose patience this morning with Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, reminded me that every lawyer who works for Donald Trump deserves exactly what they get. They're going to get stiffed on their bills. He's going to drive them completely crazy, and they're going to destroy their credibility. So, in his inability to defend Donald Trump for all these provocations, Blanche kept circling back to these larger constitutional free speech arguments, while the judge was saying, I'm asking you to address this one, this specific message, or the process of what reposting means on Truth Social, or whether or not he knew exactly what he was doing when he was posting a Jesse Waters tweet. So the guy has nothing to do but try to be evasive and run in circles, which will, provoke a lashing for him later from Donald Trump. But it's a mess. And after watching last week and the start of this week and the canceled rally because of weather on Saturday night in North Carolina, I just think Donald Trump, he's so hard up for cash. $3 and $4 of Save America PAC money now is going straight out. He's being drained dry, and he doesn't have the spotlight. And I think he believes that he needs a dramatic event like being held in contempt to energize his people, get some donations coming in, and stay in the news, which has been about like Ukraine and campus protests and other things. And so I think he wants it. I'm not saying he's rational. And it's such the burden, JVL, on this judge to try, of course, he is aware that it could boomerang and help Trump, but he can't also just completely make it, the Wild West, where this is a precedent set where Donald Trump, a former president, gets to intimidate witnesses, scare people, trash the daughter, make up lies about his family. And then from here on out, that's the end of gag orders, just like we have the end of impeachment. So it's a really fine line. I'll be interested to see where it goes. But I feel that Donald Trump has kind of withered in the last week since this started. And I mentioned it last week on The Next Level. I thought that I didn't think it would help him, but watching him kind of be relegated to over here and just rant and complain and be grumpy. I think people are going to get tired of it. And the truth is, when he goes to campaign, he won't be able to talk about anything else. So that's my view. So I'm not getting my hopes up. We've talked about this. You've level set on this. We cannot get our hopes up about the Alvin Bragg trial in New York against Donald Trump. He gets to have all the things. He gets to have affairs, all of that. At the same time, I see a trapped man a little bit, and it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase contempt of court has never been so perfectly apt as it is, because Trump has contempt for the entire idea of the legal process. Yeah. Right? The idea that laws exist, that laws can be made to apply to him, that he is subject to laws. It's just not in his worldview. And the district attorney's office has been pretty clear that they're not seeking incarceration. But on the other hand, Trump seems to be engaging in brinksmanship where he's basically daring them, right? And this is what he does, right? he wants to go all the way to the nuclear option and force you to. Well, if you're going to enforce any laws, and he's going to make you enforce that in the way which is the most advantageous to him and makes him look like a martyr. And he just trusts that his people will see that the right way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I look at this, and the more I've listened, I mean, I paid like a little bit of attention to the opening remarks from both the prosecution and defense. Prosecution has a serious case. They've thought it through. They explained it, and the defense it's just hand waving. I mean, and we've all said that, like, oh, the Bragg case is the weakest of the four, and it probably is, but it's not that weak of a case. It's
no. I know you have high LSAT scores, but other actual lawyers have said the same thing, JVL, that it is a seriously woven together case with evidence. It's not a joke.
Yeah. I just look at this and nothing good comes of this, I think, right? I mean, for America, for the idea of the rule of law, even if we get what I would judge to be the best possible outcome. So let's pretend Donald Trump is found guilty. The guilty verdict is well supported by the evidence presented at trial, so that most people believe that he got a fair shake. That this then contributes to Trump further declining in the polls, and that Joe Biden wins re-election. This is like the dream diary scenario.
Right.
Even that, we now have like 40% of the country who is even more against the rule of law as an idea. And it's just, we're in a dangerous place, and there are no good outcomes from here.
Right. And that's part of the reason why you talked about him being pardoned by Joe Biden and us not seeing him prosecuted.
Yeah.
One of those two options, or both, whatever. A long time ago,
people love that piece.
I know, but this idea, right? What the dreams scenario was that on a real, a more serious case, a more consequential case, like the documents and like January 6th, the public learned more about how dangerous he is, how reckless he is, how much contempt he has for the rule of law in a trial in open court, and just absorbed it. And as a result, became more appreciative of accountability and the rule of law and the system that we have, that we hold to everyone to, including former presidents. So that actually could have taken us to a place that where we move forward. And what you've described is correct, which is stuck with just this case. And he could easily be convicted because it is solid enough. A bunch of jurors in New York getting down on his bookkeeping is not going to be enough, even if it kind of bruises him, Biden gets reelected, to stop the hemorrhaging of his demagogic sort of campaign to, I mean, it's fascistic, right? It's like basically he's trying to make sure that people believe no one and nothing but him, that they're led to believe that all systems, the media, the courts, the judiciary, everyone are full of it, the deep state, and so we've seen it succeed. We've seen it with January 6th. We've seen it with the big lie. And we just know that even after this case, so many people are going to say, I mean, they were out to, that was a Biden prosecution and a Biden conviction. And they've been out to get him since day one, and they got him, and he's a righteous martyr. And what it does over the long term to the erosion of the rule of law, the American citizen's sense of it, appreciation for it, commitment to it is really dangerous.
Yeah, it's bad news. Hey, we had some good news though last week. Mike Johnson moved all four bills: aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, aid to Taiwan, and TikTok. Got them passed out of the House. Something that nobody saw coming. And you wrote a piece today about how the long knives are out for Mike Johnson. This is the it won't be the end for him today because Dems will probably help him limp along through November. But at the end of the day, he signed his own death warrant politically. I have a question about that. Johnson went down to Mar-a-Lago, the week before, 2 weeks before this. What do we take? We never really got a read out of that meeting. Do you think he ran this plan by Trump? Do you think Trump signed off on it? I mean, the rest of MAGA has not signed off on it. Bannon and company and Marjorie Taylor Greene are, calling for Johnson's head. Where do we think of Trump on this?
So I believe that Trump desperately, I know because it's been reported, he desperately doesn't want another speaker race. So he wants Johnson to stay speaker because he thinks it's bad for his election prospects. So he's backing him. He's a good guy. We have 1-seat majority, he said last night. He wants to tamp down another eruption because it's such a gift to the Democrats and Biden to paralyze the House of Representatives again. I think that would do it. I think that would reelect Biden. And by the way, no one else can win. So we have no idea. It could be 6 weeks this time instead of 4. So Trump has been schooled on this by his advisors. And I think he knew that Johnson was going to do this for the right reasons and believe the intelligence. That's not what Trump wants. It's not a bill he would sign. I don't know if he told him at Mar-a-Lago. We taped The Next Level. I told you that I thought it was intentionally complicated and it was designed to fail so that it could look like he tried. And hours later, he makes the first impassioned speech for the defense of Ukraine of his career. Oh. And I was completely stunned. And I believe that he found Jesus. I think that he came around to this for all the right reasons, knowing that he would have to fall on his sword and take whatever came, including whatever was happening behind the scenes, making sure some of it was called a loan so Trump could save face. I don't think he went to Mar-a-Lago that day to have that press conference and Trump was like, cool, let's totally arm Ukraine. Trump has assured him, I'm not going to back Matt Gaetz and Chip Roy and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey or anyone who wants to do the motion to vacate. We need you as speaker. We need to get through the rest of this 6 months. So that's my view, that it's not just that Democrats will bail him out. It's that Trump is not going to indulge these people who are going to try to fire Mike Johnson. So he has 6 more months. He is not going to be a leader in the next House of Representatives, either way, whether the majority or the minority. And he's done the right thing. He's not a hero, but it stunned me and I was wrong about his intent. I think he truly came to it for the right reasons and thought it was right to defy Trump over it and all of MAGA. And he knew that, they are anti-Ukraine, pro-Putin, and
they want Putin to win.
Right.
That's just objectively.
Yeah. And Mike Johnson is completely aware of, even before he made that speech last Wednesday, JVL, Tucker was after him. He just was coming after Mike Johnson and it's been building for a while. And then this was the ultimate sin. So, and to say that you did it because of the intelligence, because you believe the intelligence agencies. Anyway, so good luck to him in terms of his political path. I think the others too, who were outspoken, really dug their political graves. I think to come out and say, you guys want Russia to win. you're rooting for Putin.
Yeah.
And you're spewing Russian propaganda, not just chairman, like rank and file members. I think it's incredibly brave, and it won't be tolerated. But I think that Trump was going to crap on him in tweets about the rules going down. Do you remember when they tried to impeach Mayorkas and it didn't work out, and they had to hold the vote a week later?
Yep.
So Trump was talked out of crapping on Mike Johnson like months ago. Like, this is all we've got. He's hamstrung by these concessions that Kevin McCarthy made to the hardliners. They run the place. Feel sorry for him. We don't want to involve ourselves in this stuff. So I think that's where it stands today.
So you said that Mike Johnson's not a hero, but what if he was? So this is, look, it's a low bar, right?
Right.
But I am here. This is when people say to me, like, what do you want from Republicans? Yeah. Like nothing's ever good enough for you, JVL. You have all these purity tests. What do you want? And here's what I want. I want Republicans who are willing to set their careers on fire.
Yeah. That's
what I want. And that's why Liz Cheney, who supported Trump in 2016 and in 2020, and then when she came out, against Trump shortly after January 6th, Sarah was full on like, oh, this is great. And I was sitting in the corner, like giving her side eye, like, yeah, well, let's see really. And then she fucking went to the mattresses. Right. Yeah. And I've just, I have such tremendous respect for that. Mike Pence sat there with the fly on his head, excused Trump for 4 years in the most obsequious and toadying ways. And people would say to me, like, what, you want to give him a cookie that he didn't break the Constitution and overturn the government? And my answer is yes. I would like to give him a cookie because he set his career on fire. And the same thing for Mike Johnson, I think. Did it wait too long? Yes. Were there real consequences in Ukraine? Did people die because we didn't do aid sooner? Yes. But at the end of the day, when he made the switch, Johnson was willing to set his career on fire to do the right thing. And that's all I feel like we can ask of people. And I appreciate it. Like, I deeply appreciate it. I'm sure he will tomorrow. He will do something about, like, we got to kill trans high school kids' puppies or something. Like, I don't even know what that sentence means. I'm sorry. I'm hopped up on Robitussin. But he'll do something over the top. He's going
to put a puppy in a wood chipper and come out against Caitlin Clark.
Something like that. Right? To prove to MAGA that he's still with them and to make me look stupid for saying he's a hero. But on the other hand, like on the single most important issue of the day, I think he ended his career in order to do the right thing and stand up to Trump and MAGA. And I'm deeply appreciative of that.
So am I.
Maybe he's not the hero we need.
Right.
But he's the hero we deserve.
Right. So we need more of them. And he's not going to go to the mattresses. And that's going to be hard. Pence has finally done it. He squirmed in 400 different ways for a couple of years, but he finally did it. And I was so deeply moved on Saturday. I mean, I was at the end of the week when the writing was on the wall, and when he said what he said, especially when he talked about personal sacrifice, that he just was going to do the right thing for the right reasons and be on the right side of history. I mean, no one in the Republican Party ever says anything like that.
Yeah, right. That whole idea is laughed at.
Liberty is not a priority. Our leadership, of course, is not a priority. So anyway, I was deeply stirred and moved by the whole thing. And on Saturday, I was surprised by joy, just the whole reaction. But I'm saying that I'm relying on him to disappoint me in the next 6 months.
Sure. Sure. And I would like to take just a brief moment here to throw some attaboys at Hakeem Jeffries and Joe Biden. Because again, Mike Johnson doesn't get to yes unless he has governing partners in the Democratic Party who were walking on the road to Damascus with him, and who were not trying to make his life harder because they saw this as a winning political issue that they could impose pain on Republicans for. And I don't know, once again, Hakeem Jeffries seems like a very able leader who is able to hold his coalition together and do the right thing for America. And Joe Biden was like, hey, we're going to put a bunch of intelligence in front of you to show you why we're talking about this stuff and why it's important. And we're going to work with you and help get you to yes, instead of going out there and trying to dominate him and, bully him into submission. And I don't get it. I don't understand how anybody could look at the last 4 years and not see Joe Biden as a quite effective president who has gotten a very large amount of legislation done with almost no margins in Congress, and much of that legislation, good legislation, addressing the most important problems facing the country. Nobody's more surprised than me that Joe Biden has been a very good president, but there it is.
So I'm with you. I mean, people don't get credit when things don't blow up and escalate out of control. Somehow Hakeem Jeffries, through this entire process of providing most of the votes for all of the spending bills and the things that Republicans needed to get passed, and then this aid package, have come from Democrats. They don't rub it in the Republicans' faces, and B, you don't see any left-wing members coming out and saying, I am just sick of us giving this dysfunctional majority our votes when we are in the minority, and we should be doing message speeches screaming on the House floor while these guys are tasked with governing and they're supposed to hold this place up. Nothing. And that's all because of the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries, obviously the influence of Nancy Pelosi. And you and I have trusted that Joe Biden was doing what you just described all these months, trying to keep coming back to Johnson, bringing the experts and the expertise to him, coming down on him, but giving him the quiet space and being patient. I wanted him to go on offense. When they left for vacation 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I wanted him to say around Easter, these guys just left for 2 weeks. Ukrainians are dying. This city just got attacked by the Russians last night. This one the day before. I'm over it. He didn't do it because he was working to the good end. And so you and I today are trusting that, just like he did on Iran with Israel, just like we know that he is working the Israel-Gaza issue night and day to try to produce a good outcome, and he's not talking about it. And if one comes, we'll say, that's Joe Biden. Everyone underestimates him. He's always working. He's always effective. He does it better than anyone else can. He has all the relationships. He has all the experience. He doesn't have the ego. He doesn't have to punch people. He just wants to govern. But the fact that that is just so not appreciated by the American public makes me just delirious.
It really is crazy to me. We have these two polar opposites. Like Biden is this quiet guy who just governs and gets legislation passed, and Trump isn't even interested in legislation. And as you said, the public opinion surveys, even in polls that are good for Biden, people think Trump is more effective. And
because he screams.
I weep for America.
Right, I know that's absolutely, and that's what's so amazing is that people could learn afterwards that Joe Biden brought this along, created the outcome, gave Johnson the space that they wouldn't say, this is so wonderful. They worked together. Joe Biden didn't attack him. Democrats and Republicans, but it's not a central tenet of the campaign. It's governing is not popular. And we really came so close to a new era in this country. It wasn't automatic that was going to come. It was after 6 months. No aid had been passed since 2022. It absolutely, Joe made the argument again and again that it wasn't going to happen. It's going to be the Merrick Garland of this session. It was going to go until after the election, and it's really incredible that we avoided that spiral of like failure. But are people going to be buying champagne over that and sending $25?
No, but if Trump gets arrested for contempt of court, that'll be a fundraising bonanza. All right.
Right.
A.B., it was good to see you, even though we both feel like ass. Good luck, America.